I use the title to kind of entice your curiosity. It's an old masonic proverb, I guess you could say, or maxim. And before I do that, this idea came to me this afternoon around 1 or 2 o'clock. I want everyone to take out your money, your watches, your rings, your gold and your silver, put them on the floor and stomp on them, jump on them. Nobody's going to do that. No. The sound reasoning of why we keep making an effort to define ourselves. We're trying to get something back we lost. And it's best illustrated in the things that the Western man holds dear to his heart, his mind, and his soul. The things that are valuable. What we have lost in this Hellenistic system. Brother used that on me the other day, so I thought I'd throw it back out there, is our sense of value or valuableness. I prefer the word valuable and valuableness as opposed to value. In the 60s, we were talking about get your values together, brother. You know, find out what's really important. And while we were doing that, we were talking about ideological ideas, political ideas, religious ideas, but we weren't talking about ourselves. In this deep processing, as we as a people have evolved, the sense and the valuableness of identity has not been raised to a level of conscious awareness among the African and the Western Hemisphere. The idea, the concept of buried does not mean dead. I remember that was another famous phrase of black men who were, quote, revolutionaries, unquote, whatever that meant and whatever it means now. And the black man is dead. Bubba's dead. He can't hear nothing. He can't hear me. He's dead. Well, that's not quite true. We know that now. But it does mean hidden. It does mean put away for later. I don't have do you all have a copy of J.A. Rogers' Africa's Gift to America? Okay. Do you have any book with the Sphinx on the cover? I thought I was getting here early. Believe me, I thought it was 4:45, you know. Well, if you do, that's fine. If not, that's fine. But the Masons use this proverb, again, to articulate their references to spirituality. Man is buried in a shallow grave in the East. Farrakhan articulated this statement: the black man is buried in a shallow grave in the East. But he didn't tell folks where the East was, and he certainly didn't make reference to the Sphinx as a symbological representation of that. I'm not going to try to draw an attractive male here. Well, let's just put a figure up here. Okay. Missing keys in our culture: identity, self-knowledge, and self-revelation. In and with those keys, one has the nucleus of who he is, what he is, and where he is. North is the top of your head. South, the bottom of your feet. West, your back or vertebrae. East, your front or center. You, self or soul, two synonymous terms in the Codex Inscriptus, the code written into both the language and the Bible and the dictionary. We'll get back to the dictionary a little later. The soul is right behind the sternum bone in your spiritual nomenclature, your spiritual makeup, your spiritual nature. That's where you're buried. That's where you are. Living in mind. Living between heaven and earth. The self. The soul. The Sphinx, after an extended period of time, was buried in a grave of sand up to its neck. That's the one that the French European drew a correct profile picture of. Had he not drawn that, we may not have had an accurate descriptive of who that was in the center of the desert. The black man is buried in a shallow grave in the east. East, in all metaphysical terminology, means inward. Keep that in mind as you study particularly scriptures, anybody's scripture. East is within. West is without. We're living in the West, viewing our lives and our consciousness and our history from a Western point of view, but we are an Eastern man and woman. East also means spiritual. West means physical. The rationale of that is that you're born with a spirituality. The important factor about knowing your history tells you that. I want to underline your, because we've gotten confused about what history is. It is not his story, as we found something we found out in the 60s, and we thought we'd really learned something. We broke that word down. This is what we're looking for in those books, and they are important. That's the difference between his story and what we're seeking. Records of the past. That's your subconscious. That's the collective subconscious. And is also the Akashic record, which are the collective activities of everything that's happened on this planet. Another spiritual concept. If you've heard of or read Levi Dowling's book, The Aquarian Gospel of Jesus the Christ, he claims to have gotten into the Akashic record to get this very poetic recording of the missing 18 years of Jesus' life. You can't disprove that kind of information because there aren't any records that oppose it or verify it. But we do know scripturally there are 18 missing years in Jesus' life. Okay, so he claimed that. Noble Drew Ali, who was Timothy Drew before he became Noble, is the black man who gave birth to the Moorish Science Temple. At a time when almost 80% of our people were illiterate, 1920s, when neck bones and rice and chicken wings and chicken legs and chicken feet were more important than anybody's books or even learning how to read. That's where we were in the 20s. And Drew Ali was certainly far ahead of those that he felt compelled to help. So out of his work came the American Moorish Science Temple, the Moorish American Science Temple. It kept varying. However, Drew Ali did something that did not make that movement happen. He made a culture and an identity a religion. He tried to bring to the colored man, because that's what our folks were in the 20s, a revitalized and renewed concept of identity, of giving back an ancient name. It is still somewhat mysterious as to where Drew Ali got his information from. But if one looks further to the right of that cultural spectrum, there was another organization around called the Prince Hall Masonic Order. And as one was fortunate enough during that time or afterwards to find any literature on Prince Hall, they discovered it was Benjamin Banneker, Bay, who was the illustrious and hidden and nearly worshipped Prince Hall. The first black scientist in America is what Silvio Bendini, the author of that book, gave as a title to Benjamin Banneker. He in turn returned the concept, the ethnocentric concept of Moor, to the colored man, to the Negro, and helped to erase for a moment the psychological wrecking term, nigger, which was probably as prevalent then as it has become once again, like a ghost resurrected. Our children are more interested in the idea of being niggers than they are of being African. Well, we know it's learned. What we did not know is the psychological damage of names, the power behind words, behind titles. While at the same time, the variation of what Drew Ali and Benjamin Banneker Bay had done got reborn again through a man named Elijah Poole Bay. And I remember the first time I heard Moors in the Moorish Science Temple espousing this hidden fact that Elijah Muhammad was a Moor before he became a Muslim. And then someone brought me a picture, and there's this little light-skinned man sitting up on the steps in a group picture in the background with his fez on. And Drew Ali is down at the bottom of the steps in front. Then at some point, Elijah met Farad, and the rebirth of the concept of Moorish thinking became a third reality under the auspices of Islam. Well, it kind of took us further away from identity. It didn't bring us closer to that identity. He dropped Moor and picked up Asiatic. That was also an espousement of Nobel Drew Ali. No one ever defined Asiatic. We were just being once again labeled Asians, black Asians or Asiatics. But it worked. It worked because it filled in an empty space in the psychology of the Negro Americans who were suffering from the lack of identity and the lack of prestige. There's a difference between what we make reference to here, and I probably wouldn't be repeating this if I hadn't heard a middle-aged Negro American claim up at McDonald's a few days ago that he wasn't black and he wasn't African, he was American. He means he has a job, he has a car and a house an insurance policy, a Social Security card. You know, that's how flimsy identity has been handed to us in this culture. That it has almost no meaning unless you've got something in your pocket. Then you have identity. Then you have prestige. And of course we know that's illogical. So what is the significance of name? Well, out of the annals of the ancient quote, and I put this word in quotes, hopefully I'll get a chance to explain it, Egyptian proverbs and folklore, the statement was given, "He who has no name does not exist." Heavy statement. When I seen that one, wow, you know. Then looking at the metaphysical point of view about name. But before I get to that, I want to make another input here about that African of ancient times. There's another proverb. Why, he is so great, even his own mother does not know his real name. I like that too. Very interesting. Then I came across the definition of this very important, though somewhat vague term, because it's a word we take for granted, as we have done with many words defined by Daniel Webster, Daniel Noah Webster. Name. I looked it up in the dictionary, and it almost computes with the idea of label. For instance, pork and beans in a can with Van Camp on it, it's Van Camp pork and beans. With Campbell on it, it's Campbell pork and beans. Labeling. In metaphysics, we find that the concept name is synonymous with the word nature. Very important. Why all of us have a name. And of course, Elijah told Black America that every name we had was a slave name. But he didn't explain the significance of names. We are thinking with 26 letters in this culture, in the Western Hemisphere. And from those letters comes this language, this flood that Noah Daniel Webster gave to the West. He did not write the first dictionary. That was another European in Europe. Noah Daniel Webster was a Mason, a high potentate who was sent to this country to give a lexicographic dictionary with the Codex Inscriptus in that dictionary, the words that would hold this hidden body of knowledge, that would be compatible with Shakespeare, the Kabbalist who translated that book the third time into English, not the second time or the first. Those were Roman Catholics. You see, there are two Bibles in this country. The Confraternité Douay version, which is Catholic, that's 72 books, and there are 66 books in the Protestants' Bible, the Protestant, who old King James had the wit to have corrected for his own purposes. It is told false. He was a Mason. If you read the introduction and the appreciation to King James in the Protestants' Bible that most preachers never mention, you will see the illustrious honor that book gives to King James for his Masonic involvement in moving a body of knowledge from the European sector to the northern European sector of America as they moved their order from Europe to America to set up their Novus Seclorum. Okay. Name, very important. Names are important because it depicts nature. Nature is important because it tells you how you function, what your abilities and your powers are, how your mind works. what your genius is. That is in your name. The names that you have now, or the names that you changed. It's written in by nature. You are at the peak of nature, being an awakened soul. What the numerologist explains is that you give yourself your name through your parent. Mama says, Betty Jean, that don't sound right. Gertrude, that don't sound right. She keeps working until it sounds right, because she's listening to something. She's listening to you. Okay. The first name, of course, is your mental key. Again, how you think. Well, your genius really hooks up with your soul. The Muslim tells us that the word genius comes from the word jinn. Well, okay, we'll buy some of that. But the idea of being brilliant, of being talented, of being cultured, of being powerful is also involved in the definition of the concept of genius, a word our children need to hear. Because what this science tells us is that genius is inherent in nature. It is not the exception, it is the rule. But a country cannot rule a population of human beings looking for their genius. You see. That genius then would make its own laws. So it gives them the sub-level of human being and looks forward to the, quote, exceptions to exploit them. So the concept that we're talking about here, I got some old charts. I didn't bring them because they're kind of rolled up and balled up. So I'll have to draw this a hieroglyphic. The Moorish Science Temple and the Moorish American Institute are two concepts of this evolvement of Moorish science that you don't hear too much about. C.M. Bay is the founder of the Moorish American Institute, an astrologer. And C.M. Bay did this idea one step better. He gave some input in reference to history about being Moorish. But even he used a didactic, that is, he made the statement and did not explain it. He did not verify it or prove it. He considered himself to be a lawgiver, almost of a Moses style. What he said goes. Except when he got to astrology, he could verify that. And it appeared that no one was proving or verifying this concept that struck me as being very important. One day, sitting around, I turned to the beads, and lo and behold, right up under the word black was the word blackamoor. I think that particular Merriam-Webster's dictionary has the concept blackamoor as anyone living in, dark, Negro, African. The concept Moor in the same dictionary states anyone living in North Africa, Berbers. Okay. I bought a dictionary up here at the Goodwill store about 5 years ago for a quarter, and hurried up and turned right to the B's to look for blackamoor, see if it was in there. It was published in 1958, and it was there. It said Negro, African, or black, or anyone that is black. Then right under that, in parentheses, it stated something very interesting. A word no longer used. It's deep. You know, very interesting. Very interesting. Well, my mind got busy and my spirit joined in that venture, and I came across Genesis chapter 29 in the Bible, the story of Joseph. We all remember Joseph and the famous story that Reverend Biscuit often gives at the pulpit about Joseph being captured, being sold rather, into slavery by his brothers, which is very interesting, isn't it? And being sold to the Egyptians, and then coming out of that imprisonment all the way up to that of governor of Egypt. Very interesting. There's a statement in the Bible that makes reference to the definition of this word in that chapter. That's the definition of the word, name, ethnocentric name, title of Moor, Lord of the earth. There are two references made by Joseph's brothers to his father, Jacob, when they are sent back by Joseph to fetch their little brother, whom they had lost and could not recognize him standing in front of them, which tells us two things. One is that the Egyptian and the alleged Jew or Hebrew must have looked very much alike. And then secondly, that this is esoterica. A governor of Egypt would be wearing the clothes of the governor of Egypt. He would have the ornaments of his power, authority, and prestige. So we know we're into the Codex in Scriptus, the code written in, the symbology written in to the Scriptures. If you understand that this translation of the Bible was done by someone who had studied a body of information referred to as Kabbalistic thought, that was William Shakespeare, one of the translators. Lord of the earth. One of the sons reports back to Jacob and says to his father about his reasons for going to the land of Egypt. I'll get to that. The man, the Lord of the land, one translation reads, the man, the Lord of the country, and in one translation I found said directly, the man, the Lord of the earth, thought that we were spies. It's repeated twice in verse 30 and 33. Here is a Jew, so-called, dressed in Egyptian garb, standing as governor before other Jews, and the reference is given back that he is Lord of the land, Lord of the country, Lord of the earth. This is an entitlement in the Masonic order, the European Masonic order as well. This is what they got from your ancestors. Not just the title, but the body of knowledge. While our parents were picking cotton, bananas, and other crops for their financial stake, they were about the business of becoming you. It's deep. And it gets deeper. It's very interesting. You talk someone down to a point where they have no appreciation of who they are whatsoever, while you're becoming the highest level of their human prestige. I'm not talking geographical prestige. I'm talking biological. Your ethnocentric name came to us from what is called the eponymistic state. That's where the father takes his woman or wife, impregnates her, moves to a certain territory, claims that territory, gives that territory his name as he has given his woman his name and his children his name. That is ethnocentricity, different from geographical, the place where you are. How do we know that's true? Because our blood keeps making dark skin, broad nose, thick lips, furrowed hair, wherever we are. We give color to the human race, complexion to the human race through a very vital chemistry in our blood. Thank God. Called melanin. Okay, maybe I'll get back to that. I don't want to overemphasize this one point. I wanted to get on with some other things. But why I emphasize this, not over that of Africa, not over that of Hebrew, not over that of Rastafarian. I think all of those concepts are valid as we evolve and develop. But we should know what they mean. Definition, not description. Definition tells you about the functioning of a thing. Why Adam was given the privilege of naming everything. Well, that's an interesting way to put it in terms of analogy. So that one could know how things function, what they do, what to do with them. To do what? To take dominion of the earth. Right there in the scriptures, your ethnocentric name. In other words, it is lodged in nature what you are and who you are. Lord of the earth. That's the proposition of the universe. The proposition of nature is that you master nature. That's who you are forever. Light skin, brown skin, dark skin. Doesn't matter. You're still Moors. Like your brother told me. One thing I like about Johnson Day, what he says is, well, you're Moors, it's still whether you want to be or not. Didactic, you know. It's necessary to prove, to verify your truth. For two reasons. One, so you can teach it and tell it, explain it to someone else who looks like you. And two, because you have to wrestle with the devil in the back of your own head who says you ain't about nothing. That's what we learn from this culture. That's the illusion of inferiority that Poussin talks about, or talked about in his little book, Why Blacks Kill Blacks. The illusion of inferiority. We need to understand that inferiority as a complex is an illusion. It is the shadow on the wall in the little girl's room in the dark. But for her, that shadow on the wall is real until Mama comes and turns on the light. Knowledge turns on that light. Knowledge explains away the confusion, the false fear, and the illusion. Self-knowledge. Identity, self-knowledge, self-revelation. Three missing keys. Doesn't matter what else you want to do with your concept of culture. Those are important. Let's look at some of these concepts, then we'll get on with symbology. If you look in the dictionary, anybody's dictionary, you will not find that word. Rastafarian, I think, has finally become ethnocentric. These are presently the cultural ethnocentrics that we try to utilize. The first one comes from the Latin language and the Latin word Africanus. Scipio Narsicus, a Numidian African before the territory or continent was called Africa, is the one who helped the Roman government defeat Hannibal and the so-called Carthaginians. After helping them, he was then given the title of Africanus by a Roman emperor. Keep that in mind. Then he was given the privilege of renaming the territory that they had destroyed that had previously been called Carthatus. New town is what the dictionary gives to the concept of Carthagenia or Carthage. Carthatus is the old name of that territory according to Joseph ben Yakima. He gave the name of that territory Africanus, his title. It is not in the dictionary. It is not defined. If you look up under the map, you will find the word Africa. In other words, the word Africa means map. That's where they left that hanging. Okay. In Budge's book, Book of the Dead, commentary, not the Egyptian Book of the Dead, but Book of the Dead, a commentary on the Egyptian Book of the Dead by Wallace E. Budge. You will find this hieroglyphic. Spirit led me right to it. Very interesting. That's the definition of Afura, which is the transliteration of the word, or the retransliteration of the word Africa. The flush of God. Very interesting. If you look at the whole mythological body of, quote, Egyptian knowledge, unquote, you will find that our ancestors stood as G-O-D on this planet. That's what Elijah told black folks in the 30s and 40s. The black man is God. Scared the preacher to death. Okay, everybody got that down? Okay. This takes us to, again, identity. Why this concept of Lord of the earth is valid. John chapter 10, verse 31 to 36. Write that down, please. It is an argument between the Jews and Jesus. John chapter 10, verses 31 to 36. And Jesus is quoted as having said, I have shown you many good works. For which of these works do you stone me? And the reply from one of them, we stone you not for good works, but you, being a man, blaspheme, making yourself out to be God. And Jesus' reply is given, does not your scriptures say that ye are gods? And if your scriptures so read, they cannot be changed. The scripture he's referring to is Psalm 82, verse 5 to 8. Psalm 82, verse 5 to 8. They go on in darkness, knowing nothing. Did I not tell you that you are gods, children of the Most High? Yet you shall die like men and princes. It's right there in the Bible. I have wondered how many times, if any, the good Reverend has brought his congregation to the attention of those two scriptures. It really bothered me when I first found it, because nobody had told me about it. And the Spirit took me right to it. Very important. It's excellent psychology. And of course, first time I mentioned that to Mussolini got on me. You can't be a war. You ain't. Wait a minute, bro. It's not the same word, not the same concept, not the same idea. And we need to understand when we deal in English and then reach for Arabic or reach for Hebraic or reach for Aramaic, we're talking different languages where words have different meanings. Keep in mind the Codex Inscriptus. When you read English, when you read esoterica, when you read the Bible, it's codified. Bible, dictionary, esoteric material. There is literally enough New Age literature written by Europeans to build a skyscraper, not to fill one, while our folks are doing bananas and cotton and other vegetables in the fields. They were writing, translating this knowledge from an Eastern perspective to a Western perspective. That's the transmigration, translation, transmutation that was taking place. If you wonder where your history went, your inheritance, your culture, your heritage went, it got translated while our parents got transmigrated. Okay. Let's look at this concept before I get to those words there. We know what we're talking about. G-O-D. Somebody got a dollar, pull out a dollar and take a look, turn it over and look at the back of it and read what you see there in the little bracket. There, I don't even have a dollar in my pocket to pull out. Go ahead. Anybody, no, just you read it. Go and read it. Tell me what you see there. Okay, yeah, right. Is that what that says? That isn't what it says. What does it say? The same thing he read. What does that say? That's better. That's Codex Inscriptus. Right in your face. It's so big, you can't even see it. That's symbology. That's language. That's secret. That's what's sacred. Whenever you hear someone saying sacred, they mean secret. Okay, understand what we're talking about. That's what this science is supposed to be about. To unlock the so-called mysteries. To bring the hidden to the light. Okay. G, generator. That's your brain. O, operator. That's your soul. D, destroyer. That's your sacral vertebrae. Thank you, my brother. At the very base of your vertebrae column. Inside of that vertebrae is hidden the coiled serpent. The cords that come up to string you up so that you can become generator, operator, destroyer. Generator, energy. Operator, to move in the universe accurately, divinely guided with power. Destroyer, the energy, the cosmic fire that destroys fear, darkness, ignorance, poverty, sickness, disease, and death. Otherwise, no master could tell you, physician, heal thyself. It is in your nature to be God. You are in the Creator. You live, move, and have your being in Him. Or her. I'm not biased. Two levels of nature, very important. We're discovering that there is a feminine side to the Creator. And rightfully so. Rightfully so, why? Well, let's look at this code again. .360. How many months did it take you to give birth? All right. The circle, 360 degrees, right? 3 and 6 is what? Something's up about that. 9. How many names does Allah have in the Quran? How much is 99? All right. How many names does Jehovah have? 72. 7 and 2. 9. How many names does Brahman have? 108. 9. The completion of all things is 9. We live in an intelligent universe. That's what our ancestors discovered over 40,000 years of study. We can't even get through 12. It's deep, you know. A people who have not only loved knowledge, but gave it birth on the 3rd dimensional level of existence, cannot appreciate their own minds, just their bodies. You know you've been tricked. So we're discovering the fact that you're brilliant, that wisdom is a part of your natural personality, that knowledge is how you get from one point in time and space to another, something you're supposed to know. And how do you get it? It's interesting, because the Christian, if he could be given a pound of power for every time he read the Bible and studied the Bible, he would be as great as any prophet he ever prayed to. But he's studying about somebody else and not himself. So the master they follow said, "Man, know thyself, and to thine own self be true." 3-dimensional man, not just the body, but the spirit and the mind. Not just the spirit and the mind, but the body, the temple of God, that in too many black folks' head is worthless, meaningless. So by changing one's concept of who he or she is, there's a whole new birth to the information they've already gathered, as well as the importance of other knowledge to be gained, to change their world, to change their world. I'm going to share something else with you about this concept here. Let's look at this here first. This just popped up in my head here. Because we talked about this last night, one of my buddies, he didn't come tonight because I was going to embarrass him. And he was saying, we ought to drop all this stuff about trying to call ourselves this and call ourselves that and just be a man and get on out there and get it done, you know. That's a fair assessment of what we ought to do. Then I asked him, what is a man? He started giggling and sniggling, because the young brother with all the gold on his neck, walking sideways, and I don't know how many rings they're wearing now, you know, thinks he's a man. He believes he's a man because he's got a car, he's got money in his pocket, he's got rings, he's got girls, he's got a telephone, he's got a beeper. You know, he's a man, you know. He's 16 years old, but he can go out and get $5 grand tomorrow, you know. Well, I'm trying to get 50 cents, you know. Well, that isn't what man is. And this is a very important word, because this word is at the very root of what a woman is. It's not masculine only. That's what a man is. Master, able and noble, M-A-N. Codex inscriptus. Master, able and noble. Before you can get to G-O-D, you got to go here first. It's about mastering yourself, not somebody else. The war is within. Gaining the power of your own soul, of your own spirit. Gaining the revelation of yourself. on the great chart of the clock of destiny that you are placed on just because you're here. Okay. This is the word that I was getting ready to write down when that one flashed through. This is very important because it gives another dimension to this idea. If I can run another. Lord of the earth. Look at that word. Earth. Okay? I'm going to write it again. That's what's missing. Lord of the heart is the esoteric meaning of Lord of the earth. Two hearts. Spiritual heart, physical heart. Divine love is missing in our world. We got money, we got talent, we got numbers, we got guns. We don't have any love one for another. Real love that doesn't go away. Love is power. In that cosmology, love and wisdom are the concomitants of each other, the companions. They come in pairs, male and female. Very important. And it isn't my statement alone, but also the statement of others who teach this science and other areas of this science. As long as the black man has his foot on his woman's head, we ain't going nowhere. He's got his foot on the symbol of divine love in the universe. The original woman, the first symbol of divine love. The rose is second. She's first. Your mama, your sister, your daughter, your wife. Very important. Very important for the black man to love so he can get access to his wisdom. They are concomitants, partners. They run, they work together. Lord of the earth, Lord of the heart. The earth is the physical form. We're not talking about the globe. When you read that in the Bible, when you read that in esoteric information, it is your body that is the earth. Okay. What is Moorish science? In a word and a concept, it is symbology. The astrologer won't agree with that. They say it's astrology. Well, let's look at what the universe provides us with so we get a clear conceptualization of what we're talking about. This is the old African word for symbology, sim. It's in Dr. Yakanan's book, Africa, the Mother of Western Civilization. He offers the hieroglyphic for it, which I can't recall right at this moment. You've seen this word 1,000 times and used it 1,000 times in this concept. Message. The age of message, the age of symbology. We are given the civic idea that we live in a civilization, that we don't see any civilized behavior. But in this science we find we live in a symbolization. And symbology is the language of creator. It is the language of nature. Did I bring my apple? Let me see here. look in that yellow bag and see if you can find an apple. Did I eat it? Okay, let me see if I remember to. Yeah, okay. Now I need a knife. Any kind of knife. Any kind of. Okay. Symbology. There you go. Got one? Okay, good. Thank you, my brother. Okay. Is found. Give that back to him, my brother. Thank you very kindly. Everywhere in nature. You have to look, pass it around and take a look at it and tell me what you see. Pass it around and tell me what you see. Sim, the language of the universe, that which records the nature of things in the universe, is the meaning and significance of symbology. It is everywhere prevalent. It is above ethnocentric and what's the other level of language? It just slipped right out of my mind there. No. It'll come back to me. Various languages, in other words. In other words, there are symbols that no matter where people are, they get the same meaning from those symbols. It doesn't matter. The one that has seemingly divided the Muslim from the Christian is a very interesting one that is used by both. One knowingly, the other one unknowingly. I got this. What did I do? Put the other one in my pocket. Okay. This is a big symbol here because pentagram, but they use the 5-pointed star. Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, here it is right here on the license plate. Very good. Thank you. The crescent and the star. It is not in or on the Quran, but the banner of many of Islamic countries sport or fashion the standard of the crescent and star. Islam refutes imagery and symbology. So where did it come from? Well, let's define it first. That's the moon. Well, okay, I'll do this first. Cancer is the name of the symbol of the sun, and the symbol of of the moon, and the symbol of the moon is that of mother. The 5-pointed star is man, stretched out in this manner. Hands, the power of projection. Feet, 2 points of power, and the head, a point of power. The 5 points. Here is what it has been translated into. That's the crescent and star. That's Mary and Jesus. See that? Shove it together. I didn't hear anybody holler it out. All right, there it is. Okay. Mother and son. There isn't anybody else down here. Oh, you see, there's a shake hands down here. Well, he got down here through a woman, if he's got a body. But that's how you get down here. Okay. Mother and son. Very important. Let me interject something that I can say I discovered, because the relationship of black women and black men is really perplexing. You never finish being the son of your mother. You never finish. If you leave it out of your relationship takes on a lopsided, unbalanced state. You are your woman's husband or man. You're her lover, her brother, and her son. Sometimes she comes to you as your mother. She comes to you as your woman, as your lover, as your sister. Can you tell the difference? Do you know who that is talking to you at that moment? Is she talking to you with the authority of a mother? And are you listening with the humility of a son? We never outgrow our nature. We just hopefully, by the grace of God, grow up. Vice versa. Your husband, woman, is your father. He's your brother. He's your lover. And your son. Sometimes he's coming as your father, as your brother. If he is blessed and you are too, sometimes he's coming to you as a God. And sometimes you are coming to him as a God, with godly wisdom and advice. Or disdain, depending on what you've done. The whole relationship is always there. Do you know who that is you're talking to? Sleeping with, eating with, dancing with, walking with? Important. Man, know thyself. And to thine own self be true has nothing to do with Christianity. That came from your ancient ancestors. Written on the walls of the temple of Dendera, when you walked in the door as the initiate, man, know thyself. And you will know the gods and the universe. Then be true to yourself. Wisdom. Any questions? Yes.
The apple,
Yes, right. 5-pointed star. Yes. 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 Okay. Let's look back at that. Nobody asked me what it meant. Are we running out of time? We're running out of tape? Is anybody bored? I see the sister rubbing her back. Does that mean the chair is uncomfortable, or am I talking too long? Oh, okay. Okay. This is English I'm writing, Mussolini. Don't get excited. Y'all see that there? That's right. But that's English, not Arabic. That is not Aleph, Lam, Lam. That's English. Don't get offended. Codex inscriptus, the code written in. Arm, leg, leg, arm, head. Having the form of godliness, says the Bible, but not according to accurate knowledge. That's what Paul is attributed with having stated. Very important that you understand your higher nature, so you don't have to rustle and tussle with the white boy about what he's got. We find out he ain't got nothing, and what he got, he's losing it. They lose what they got, and we losing our mind. Well, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. That's what it's about. Transforming your mind with the power of thought. And a faculty I want to make just a brief comment on, because I think this is our way out on one level of development and achievement. It is not just for us to get salvation. We've got some saintly folks that left here and left us nothing, and they probably went on to heaven and paradise. They didn't leave us anything. You know? Yeah. We need to do something down here so that the little ones don't have to go through what we went through. That's important, in my mind at least. I'm going to write this on. Well, I'll just say it, okay. This very big word. I want you to look at this word for the first time. Tell me what you see, if I spelled it right. What do you see in that word?
Image of a nation. National image.
I almost heard it. You're close. Image, nation. The nation we're looking for is in our mind. Why we can't put it together outside of ourselves. It is scrambled in our mind. It is in conflict in our imagination. There's this huge ball of niggers at the back of all of our heads that we can't get rid of, even after we say brother, after we say assalamu alaikum. God, ass nigga. You know, I've done it myself, you know. It's in the back of our heads, and we cannot reach in there and grab this garbage and throw it away. Laugh if you want it. It is killing us. They don't kill Muslims. They don't kill black women. They don't kill African women. They kill niggers. Psychologically. They take that image they see and reduce it to the lowest common denominator. Then they can shoot her, shoot him, rape her, rob him. If it's a nigger, because a nigger ain't shit. Remember that. It's an awful word that has drafted power 400 years. It's the only word out of the Europeans' mouth we remember. One ugly word. Has absolutely no meaning whatsoever. But we bought it. Now we have to erase it. With identity, self-knowledge, self-revelation. Very important. Any other questions? Oh, yeah, we dealt with that. Master, able, and noble. M-A-N? Master, able, and noble. What did you write?
Master, able, and noble.
Okay. But I didn't finish what? Telling you what master and able is? Okay. We know what mastership is. Ability is able. The power to get things done, to accomplish, is ability. Nobility is the honor that the Spirit gives to you as that of king and queen, as prince and princess. It's in your nature. We need to educare, educate, draw out that which is within. That's the meaning of the word educate. To draw out. The white boy's putting stuff in our heads. The greatest jewel. I'm trying to throw in a 12-week course here that I have designed. I'm not going to even do it on one tape. But I just want to give you some ideas of what you're supposed to be receiving, what you actually have in part. Those keys we talked about helps you to put them together. It does not slight your religion, your spirituality, your love for the sacred name of Creator. It doesn't take anything away from Creator. You can't. We can't. We can't even give the Creator anything. He's got everything. What we need to do is to understand what we have, what we are, where we are, so we can envision our future. Each one of you have a self-revelation. The Creator has a divine plan for you. Noble Ali told the Moors in the 20s that every Moor was to inherit $1 million in this country. And of course they went off on him You know, 19, oh, man, it's crazy, losing his mind. How many millionaires we got now? You know, we can hardly count. We can't even keep track of them. And every week, a new millionaire is born somewhere in America, and that's coming here to Georgia. I know you all have great high morals and you don't gamble. Well, don't gamble. When the lottery starts, don't gamble. Open your mind for a blessing from the Creator. People have taken $1 on one given day and paid their rent, bought the kids' clothes, bought food, and got drunk on the same night with $1. It's a blessing and a curse simultaneously. Like everything else down here is involved in duality. Keep your mind open. The Creator has something for you. Are you ready, willing, and able to receive it? Think rich. Think prosperity, not poverty. We are poor because we believe in poverty. We affirm it. We almost give thanks that we're poor. The only sin there is down here is to be poor and, of course, foolish.